looking to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. In a setback for North Korea's ambitions, the nation's latest attempt to launch a spy satellite into orbit has ended in failure. The waters east of the Philippine Luzon Island were designated as one of the danger areas for the launch, as conveyed through Japan's Coast Guard. The other two designated areas include the Yellow Sea and the East China Sea. Moving on to more news today, members of the Security Council have once again stressed the vital importance of fully implementing UN Security Council Resolution 2669. They've reiterated their firm commitment to utilizing all available tools at the Council's disposal to support the ASEAN-led efforts aimed at achieving a peaceful resolution to the crisis in Myanmar. Shifting our focus to developments in Singapore, authorities there are currently investigating a series of bomb threats targeting various locations, including government buildings and embassies. The Singapore Police Force has confirmed that approximately 18 locations across the city-state received these threats. And finally, from the world of basketball, exciting news from the basketball world as a dynamic team of young NBA players from the U.S. is gearing up for the upcoming Basketball World Cup. Under the guidance of Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr, this talented group of American players in their 20s is poised to compete on the global stage. The tournament is set to commence on August 25 across the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia. In a setback for North Korea's ambitions, the nation's latest endeavor to launch a spy satellite into orbit has met with failure. According to state media reports, on Thursday, Pyongyang's attempt to deploy the reconnaissance satellite Maligyong-1 ended in disappointment. And this comes just a few months after their initial satellite launch suffered a similar fate, plunging into the ocean shortly after takeoff. The official Korean Central News Agency confirmed that the North Korean National Aerospace Development Administration had undertaken a launch early on Thursday. However, the mission encountered a critical flaw during the third stage flight. The error was attributed to a malfunction in the emergency blasting system. Despite the setback, authorities downplayed the issue, labeling it as not a big issue. They vowed to regroup and carry out a third launch attempt slated for October. South Korea swiftly responded to the failed launch, convening a National Security Council meeting. The country's officials criticized both this recent launch and North Korea's previous failed attempt in May. Seoul accused Pyongyang of irresponsibly squandering valuable resources on provocative actions. The statement also highlighted that while the North blamed lower officials for its economic challenges, its focus on such activities exacerbated the dire living conditions of its citizens, pushing them towards starvation and death. The waters east of the Philippine Luzon Island was among the three designated danger areas, Pyongyang earlier said in a message relayed through Japan's Coast Guard. The other two are the Yellow Sea and the East China Sea. This launch comes on the heels of a significant diplomatic meeting. Leaders from the U.S., South Korea, and Japan recently convened at Camp David. Meanwhile, joint military exercises between the U.S. and South Korea, known as Ulchi Freedom Shield, commenced earlier this week. And these annual drills, which consistently draw ire from Pyongyang, have already been targeted by North Korean hackers. The exercises are scheduled to run until the end of August, specifically August 31st.
이번 UFS 타이거 연합 도시지역 작전 훈련은 한국군과 미군이 하나의 부대로 편성되어 상호 운용성을 검증하는 소중한 기회였습니다. 이번 훈련은 도시 지역에서 연합작전 수행 능력을 극대화하는 최고의 훈련이었고 남은 훈련도 최선을 다해 임하겠습니다.
I can tell you everyone in my platoon had a great time working with the ROK Army. They've been incredibly professional. They really understand how we work together, and we had a great week out here this week. The ROC Army was great during our training. We did a lot of combined interoperable operations, and they're really good at what they do, and we work together really well, and that's what this week was all about.
First, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has consistently emphasized the importance of developing a surveillance satellite as a top priority for the regime. The nuclear-armed nation argues that such a satellite is essential to counterbalance the increasing regional activities of U.S. forces. We turn our attention to an important address delivered by Admiral John C. Aquilino, the commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command at the International Institute for Strategic Studies in Singapore. Speaking on the theme of managing strategic competition and the quest for an enduring future in the Indo-Pacific, Admiral Aquilino underscored the critical importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific region. He also expressed optimism about the embrace of a free and open Indo-Pacific vision by like-minded nations, emphasizing the necessity of continued cooperation among allies, partners, and friends. Admiral Aquilino described integrated deterrence as a means to prevent conflicts involving the synchronization of all national powers in all domains, together with joint forces and allies.
And when viewed by those who seek to change the rules-based order, these activities provide clear, visible evidence of our commitment to preserving peace and stability in this region. Now, it all can't be done militarily. Diplomatically, advancements and partnerships with Australia, Japan, Philippines, all increase our strength of our position in the region. The trilateral relationship between the Republic of Korea, Japan, and the United States provides dedicated capability to defend all of our homelands. The Quad nations, exercising together, highlight the importance of the Indian Ocean as it applies to the global community. And ASEAN, once again, ASEAN centrality is critical and cannot be overstated in importance as we balance the force throughout the Indo-Pacific region.
The alignment of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in confirming the 1982 UNCLOS Treaty as the basis for international maritime law interpretation was hailed as a powerful step. Sovereignty, according to Admiral Aquilino, is fortified by the international rules-based order, enabling nations, regardless of their size, to choose security partners and engage in trade agreements without fear or coercion.
They empower law enforcement entities to harass nations operating legally within their own exclusive economic zones. They break formal commitments. They ignore international legal rulings. And they avoid requirements delivered under the UN Charter. Some have even proposed alternative security options. And while on the face they look benign, their real purpose is to establish an alternative to this rules-based order in ways that benefit one nation and at the expense of all others. Now, these actions isolate them on the world stage. And we, as witness to these actions, must always focus on deeds and not words. Actions are what matter. And how we contend with the affront to the rules-based international order, it impacts all nations in this region and out. I believe conflict is neither imminent nor inevitable. In my role, it doesn't matter. U.S. Indo-PACOM are taking actions every day to prevent any potential conflict.
Today, several members of the Security Council once again emphasized the crucial importance of the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2669. They underscored their unwavering dedication to employing all available tools within the Council's arsenal to back the ASEAN-led initiatives aimed at achieving a peaceful resolution to the situation in Myanmar. Representing a united front, UK Ambassador James Kariuki conveyed a statement on behalf of a consortium of nations, including Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, France, Gabon, Ghana, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, Switzerland, the United Arab Emirates, the United States, and the United Kingdom.
We call again for the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2669, and we underline our commitment to using all tools at the Council's disposal to support ASEAN's efforts to find a peaceful solution to this crisis. We strongly condemn the killing of civilians, and in particular the continued use of airstrikes, and we reaffirm the need to respect international law and protect civilians. Over 18 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance in Myanmar. 2 million are displaced, and over 15 million people are food insecure. It has been 6 years since nearly 1 million Rohingya were forced to flee their homes in Myanmar. We encourage international partners to support the provision of humanitarian assistance to displaced Rohingya.
The meeting saw the participation of Ambassador of Myanmar, Kyaw Mo Chun, who subsequently addressed reporters.
Here I wish to stress that time is of the essence for all of us to save lives of the people of Myanmar. The military junta continues its atrocities against the people of Myanmar even after the adoption of the resolution. What is happening in Myanmar is not a civil war, but a people's revolution against a violent and despotic military junta. The people of Myanmar demand the removal of the military from politics and the establishment of a civilian federal democratic union. The UN Security Council have to take decisive actions without further delay to save lives of the people of Myanmar, to end the military impunity, and to prevent further destabilization of the region.
An update from the aftermath of the devastating wildfires that swept through the Hawaiian island of Maui. It has been 2 weeks since the catastrophe struck, and the situation remains grim. Authorities revealed that a staggering 1,100 individuals are still unaccounted for as the fires left a trail of destruction and confusion. The FBI has stepped in, seeking the assistance of family members to aid in the identification of the deceased. These fires have been declared the deadliest in the U.S. in a century, with the latest provisional death toll standing at 115 lives lost. The picturesque tourist town of Lahaina, previously home to 12,000 residents, has been reduced to ruins. The chaos in the wake of the disaster has led to thousands of missing persons being reported across various organizations, including the police, Red Cross, and shelters. Special Agent Stephen Merrill of the Federal Bureau of Investigation addressed the press, explaining their efforts to consolidate and verify the data.
Again, these lists come from a variety of sources, and some of the information is highly ambiguous. For instance, we have information about a first or last name, but not both. It makes it very difficult for us to identify who that person may be. So our request of the public is, please, if you have already submitted complaints, whether to the Maui Police Department about a missing person.
The FBI is meticulously cross-referencing the lists to ascertain the true number of individuals who remain unaccounted for. Merrill shared that as of Tuesday, the count of missing persons had reached 1,100, and sadly, this figure is likely to increase as efforts continue.
We are still in the process of collecting additional records, so the numbers that I've quoted may in fact rise because we're still collecting information. There may be a shelter out there, for example, a hotel out there that hasn't reported people, and so I encourage everyone to again contribute by calling the Maui Police Department or the FBI at 808-566-4300 so we can collect that information. We really need the public's help. and thank you to the media for broadcasting that. So
Officials are working to ensure transparency and trust in this process.
The amount of work that all of the first responders and members of the community are doing is so much that we'll never be able to capture. We'll never be able to quantify that. We have people that literally responded knowing their homes burned down. They know that they have people that are deeply affected by this. We have people going to work, both fire, police, medical. They're borrowing clothes. They're borrowing clothes. Their kids are borrowing clothes. They have nothing. And so I just think it's so important that we take a moment as human beings and recognize how much we're really into this.
And we bring you a tale of intrigue and uncertainty from Russia. The fate of a prominent Russian mercenary leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who once dared to challenge President Vladimir Putin, has taken a mysterious turn. Today, a private jet carrying Prigozhin and 9 others tragically crashed north of Moscow, leaving behind a cloud of enigma reminiscent of a gripping spy novel. Yevgeny Prigozhin, previously recognized as the head of the infamous Wagner Group and famously referred to as Putin's chef, was reportedly among the passengers on the ill-fated plane. Prigozhin had briefly led a mutiny against President Putin back in June, orchestrating a march of his forces toward Moscow. This act of defiance fueled rampant speculation with concerns that he might become a target for assassination. As to the origins of today's crash, President Biden weighed in, noting that there's very little that transpires in Russia without Putin's influence. However, he admitted to not possessing definite information.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you think Putin is able?
There's not much that happens when Russia is not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer.
Russia's investigative committee has already initiated an investigation into the incident. According to RIA Novosti, emergency services have uncovered the bodies of 8 victims at the crash site. Meanwhile, President Putin delivered a speech commemorating the 80th anniversary of the Kursk battle during World War II. He did not mention the plane crash, instead praising the dedication of soldiers involved in the ongoing special military operation in Ukraine. In a curious turn of events, footage emerged on Monday depicting Prigozhin purportedly in Africa, where he proclaimed his intent to foster greater freedom. The Wagner Group, the mercenary organizations he led, has established a robust military presence on the continent, collaborating with nations including Mali and the Central African Republic. And news from Singapore, where authorities are now looking into a series of bomb threats aimed at several locations, including government buildings and embassies. The Singapore police force confirmed that around 18 locations across the city-state received threats at approximately 9:10 a.m. local time. Security teams swiftly responded, but subsequent checks found no security risks. Specific locations and evacuation details haven't been disclosed. The Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment revealed that its office building received one of the threats, leading to tightened security measures. Singaporean authorities stress that false bomb threats won't be taken lightly, citing a recent similar incident in the Republic of Korea. They urged vigilance and reminded the public to report suspicious items or individuals. Those found of spreading false bomb threat information could face imprisonment for up to 7 years or a fine of up to 50,000 Singaporean dollars, about $37,000 US. An extraordinary sight witnessed amidst the wildfire battle in British Columbia, Canada. While engaged in the valiant effort to combat wildfires, a Canadian fire service worker stumbled upon a remarkable phenomenon, a fire whirl, also known as a fire tornado. Take a look. And we have exciting news from the basketball world. A dynamic team of young NBA players from the U.S. is gearing up for the Basketball World Cup. Guided by Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr, this talented group of American players in their 20s is ready to take on the world. The tournament tips off on August 25 across the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia. Coach Kerr's strategy focuses on speed and skill, combining a fast-paced attacking style with a strong defensive approach. With players like Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, and Austin Reeves, this squad brings flair and versatility to the court. FIBA rules, which differ from the NBA, allow for more physicality and a shorter game duration. Memphis star Jaren Jackson Jr. is excited about the opportunity for increased aggression and better shot blocking. The roster includes standout players like Mikal Bridges, Brandon Ingram, Paolo Banchero, and Bobby Portis. The U.S. team's World Cup journey begins with Group C matches in Manila, where they'll face off against New Zealand, Greece, and Jordan. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.